In my own personal experience, my father had cancer, and through that journey, through his transition, I would come in the beginning and I would ask him, well, how did you feel today? How do you feel? In hopes he would saying, oh, I feel a little better or something. But I didn't realize that I was actually taking him into that place of scarcity.
Yeah.
So after reading your book, Mindful Body, you have the idea that I find fascinating of mindful contagion. Mindfulness is contagious.
Yeah.
And you have some research examples. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is wild. You know, that in an earlier draft of the book, I had a chapter that I called the woo-woo chapter. And the publishers asked me to take out most of it. But this stuff stayed because it's research-based. You know, well, first, before I talk about it, people need to understand that everything we've said up until this woo-woo part, you can count on as being true. All right. And if this seems too strange to you, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bath and decide, you know, that it's all too strange. Because again, we have so much control over ourselves that we're not exercising. It's sad. Okay. So what we did, well, there are several things that we did. The first, these I'm sure of, that many people, are extra sensitive to other people's mindlessness. You know we don't have a word for it, but when you're with somebody who's not quite there, or they're not on the level, you know it. And we have some explanation, you know, some labels. I mean, one oar in the water, or the light's on, but nobody's home. But that's for the people who are just, you know, just mindless, not the people who are evilly mindless. Okay. And so we're made uncomfortable in the presence of somebody mindless. All right. So if one is super sensitive to other people's mindlessness, they're going to be more uncomfortable than somebody who is not super sensitive. So first, I had thought that many of the people I know who are heavy drinkers drink to dull down some of these cues. And so we did a little study. This one is not woo-woo, where we had people in a wine tasting experiment, and the experimenter is mindful or mindless. And the participant is a heavy drinker, oblivious to, you know, the different conditions for the experimenter. And we simply note how much they drink. And they drink much more when the experimenter is mindless. You know, what I like to do for all of my work is find a way that the group that we're diminishing actually may be outperforming us in some way. I like leveling things off rather than good guys, bad guys, winners and losers. And it occurred to me that some of the people who are autistic may also be super sensitive to other people's mindlessness, which is why social situations may be so hard for them, because most people are mindless almost all the time. So again, we have people who are mindful or mindless with these autistic, in this case, children. And when there was somebody mindful, they perform essentially just like non-autistic kids. All right. We have lots of studies where we show that when you're mindful, people see you as more charismatic, more authentic, better leaders, more trustworthy. And so that's another way where the mindfulness is contagious, in that if I trust you and I see you as that kind of nice, non-judgmental person, I'm going to relax, be more myself, and so on. In other words, I'm going to let myself put the stress of being with somebody aside and behave more mindfully. Okay, so we have lots of these kinds of studies. Then we have the really weird one. Okay, so it's people, when we show people...
Can't wait to hear it.
We did a version of this many years ago. Very simple study. We just showed people index cards that had things written on them like, Mary had a little lamb. I love Paris and the springtime. Just one statement. And we just give it to them and ask them to read it. And everybody misses, like they don't see the gorilla, that this was well before the gorilla study. They don't see the double letter. So you show it, they read it. I say, how many words are they? Go, Mary had a little lamb, 5. I'll pay you for accuracy. Mary had a little lamb. They just don't see it. We showed it to people who just finished meditating and they saw it. Okay, so if you see it, we're going to declare you as mindful, right? So now you come into the study and there's somebody, a Confederate working with us, okay? That Confederate will be mindful or mindless. That means they're just noticing new things or they're counting, just same old, right? They don't say anything to you. You're then handed this card, standing next to this person who's mindful or mindless. When the person you're standing next to is mindful, you see Mary had a little lamb. You see the double word. All right. Just being near somebody seems to have that positive effect. In another study that's half woo and half not, we had people meditating in a room, and they could have been doing our mindfulness or meditating, doesn't matter. And then they leave, and then participants come into the room. Or there's nobody in the room, and then participants come into the room, and we test them. And what happens is when you're in a room that had just been occupied by people who were meditating, your cognitive performance is enhanced. There's something in the air. So be it. But it's all good for business.
I noticed
it's good for all parts of your life. I mean, if you're running a business, you don't have to teach each and every person to be mindful. Some subset, and then it will affect everybody there. And you end up with a mindful organization, which, is going to be far superior on almost every dimension to the business that's being conducted right now.
Ted Wolf here. I want to thank you for joining us for this Implementors video. The Implementors podcast is presented by Guidewise, where we, along with our vetted member community, recognize that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. To learn more about getting things done with Guidewise, please visit us at guidewise.io. And to conquer your implementation struggles, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Happy implementing.